What's up, everybody? Welcome to the first, we'll call it an episode of the 40 card pile. We're going to start this off by reviewing the lands in Kaldheim. Kaldheim isn't quite out yet. The streamer event is tomorrow as I record this, and the actual release on Arena is going to be then Thursday, January 28th. So like I said, we're going to be going over the lands, and we're going to be kind of reviewing each card, talking about it, and giving my thoughts on it. Obviously, I have not played with any of the cards yet, so this is just going to be my initial guess as we play with the set and get some experience with it. Maybe we'll come back and review this, and we'll see how I did. We'll see if I was right, if I was wrong. How right or wrong was I? Hopefully, we're going to be right on most of these. But like I said, we're going to be starting this off with the lands, and the best place to start with that, in my opinion, is going to be the pathway cycle. This is ending. This is the 5 pathways that we did not get from Zendikar Rising. And after playing with them in Zendikar Rising, I think that these were pretty much just rare drafted for me. If I had a super weak pack and say I was in green and I saw the green-white pathway, or if I was in blue and I saw the blue-red pathway, then I would take it if it was a weak pack, or if I was considering splashing maybe. But more often than not, these were pretty much just rare drafted. I think splashing is going to be a thing in Kaldheim, so I think these are going to be a little bit higher pick than that. But as we're going to find out, there's a lot of utility lands, a lot of really good lands in this set. So I'm going to be giving the pathway cycle, all of them, I'm going to be giving them a D+. I think you'll be happy with it if you get one on color, maybe on the wheel. If you say are splashing and come across one that's on one color, maybe you'll grab that up. But I do not think that you're going to be picking these very high. I think that there's going to be many lands that you will be picking above these. They are good. You'll be happy with them, but you are never going to be upset if you don't get one. Next up is another cycle of dual lands. There are 10 snow dual lands. They're similar to Guild Gates. They tap for 2 colors and they ETB tapped. They do have the snow, so you can tap for snow mana, as well as they do have the basic land type. So for example, Alpine Meadow is the red-white snow dual, and it says snowland, mountain, plains. So these are fetchable. That is not quite relevant for this purpose, but for constructed formats and eternal formats, that is definitely a thing to note on these. So in this set, snow is back, obviously, and it seems to be a big player. Pretty much every color has snow in it. Snow seems to be centralized in the Sultai colors. So I think you're going to be picking these a little bit higher priority if you are in green, blue, or black. I think you'll want these a little bit higher, but across the board, these are going to be decently high picks. So I have them as a C. And then the Sultai colors I have as like a C+. I think you'll want those a little bit more, but you're still not going to want to be taking these extremely high. These are, if you're in a snow deck, these could be even higher. These could be in the B- range, but for just a baseline rating, I think C+ for these. Splashing is great, and enabling snow is also going to be great. Like I said, if you're in the Simic color combinations. That seems to be mostly Simic, but I've noticed a decent bit of black as well. So I think C+ range for these. There are also snow basics. These are just a slight upgrade to regular basics. I wouldn't pick them super highly unless I am, again, in a snow synergy deck, more than likely going to be in the Sultai color combination. So I would give these like a C-, maybe a little bit lower, maybe like a D+ for the mountain and the plains, but a safe C- for these. You do have to draft your snow lands. So if you're in a snow deck and you don't draft any snow lands, you are SOL. You can't add these to your deck like regular basics. You do have to draft them. And now we're going to move into our third cycle. Actually, it would be fourth if you count basics, the snow basics, that is. Our fourth cycle of lands already in Kaldheim. There are 10 of these. They ETB tapped, and then they tap for a color, and then they have an ability that is 2 different colors. So first up, we've got Guard Armory. and that enters tapped. It taps for a white, and you can pay 1 red, red, white, and tap, sacrifice X Guard Armory, search your library for an aura card and or an equipment card, reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle your library. So you can see it's got some utility, but it does ETB tapped and only tap for 1 color. The whole cycle is going to be like that, and there is one for each guild color, or color pair, I should say, excuse me. The X Guard Armory, 5 mana to grab 2 things from your deck is great, but when those things may or may not be that strong, it's really not incredible. If this was a 5 mana, search your library for 2 cards, put them in your hand, it would be fantastic. If it was 2 creatures, that'd be great. If it was even 5 mana, put 2 lands onto the battlefield, something like that, that would still be okay. But grabbing an artifact, or excuse me, it has to be an aura and or equipment, so it's not even artifact or enchantment. You really do need to build around this thing. There are some good auras that you can get, like what is it, Bound in Gold, I think, is the white aura, where it's basically like the upgraded pacifism in the set. It can be really nice if there's some big thing that you have to deal with, but now you're looking at 5 mana, functionally 5 mana, 4 mana, tap and sack a land, plus now you need 3 more to actually cast your Bound in Gold. I'm giving this a D. I think it is playable. If you end up in Boros, I think you will be more than happy to run one, but I don't think that you're going to be taking this as this isn't a signal that Boros is open. This isn't a reason to move into the color combination. Next up, we have Beretta Stronghold. This taps for a green, and then you can pay green, white, white, tap, and sack. Put a 1/1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures you control. They gain vigilance and lifelink until end of turn. Activate this ability only anytime you could cast a sorcery. So right away, this is a big upgrade over the Boros one. This seems pretty strong to me. The lower costed utility lands seem like almost pure upside if you're in the right color pair. This feels like something you'll want to use rather than get it out and activate it ASAP. You'll want to wait on this. You'll want to use it later in the game. Wait till you get some big creatures on board and really capitalize on that lifelink. Hopefully you'll be able to force them to block with something or some things that they wouldn't normally have blocked with, because they're bigger and because they do have hopefully the ability to end the game. Yeah, I think this is a C+ range card. I would put this similar to the Snow Duels in terms of desirability. I think C+ for Beretta Stronghold. Next up, we have Gates of Istval. This is the Azorius. Taps for white. You can pay 2 white, blue, blue, tap, and sack. You gain 2 life and draw 2 cards. Really simple on this one, and I like it. I'm here for it. 4 mana to draw 2 is already playable in pretty much every format as a card. You're more than happy with that. Staple some life gain on and put it on a land. I'm here. I'm in for this. I like this one a lot. It's not the strongest ability, but the life gain could prove to be something in aggressive matchups, while the card draw is just going to help you pull ahead if you're in a more of a controlling mirror. I think this goes better in a more blue-white control-y style deck than like a blue-white flyers kind of tempo deck. It seems like you can do both in this. I think you'll want this more if you're in the slower version, doing a little bit more of controlling the board and keeping yourself protected. I think this is going to be kind of in the C+ range again as the Beretta Stronghold. I'm in for this one. It's a little bit more expensive. I think you get a little bit more out of it. I need to get ready for this one. I need to take a drink because this is a name right here. Next up, we have Notvold Slumber Mound. This is Gruul. Taps for a red. You can pay 3 red, green, green, tap and sack, destroy target land, create a 4/4 troll warrior creature token with trample. So we're up there in terms of cost. Destroying a land doesn't feel like it will be nothing in this format. There's, as we can see, there's plenty of utility lands, and being able to just turn one of those off is nice. Being able to shut down, like if your opponent's in a snow deck or if they're splashing or something, and you can turn that off, you can limit their snow, you can limit their splashing. That could be very, very real. Paying 6, functionally 7 mana to do that is a lot. Getting a 4/4 Trampler, I don't know how much that will help. That's not going to be nothing either. Troll Warrior is not a relevant creature type in Kaldheim. If this were in Zendikar, the Warrior would be great. But I'm not sure this one quite lives up to the cost. I'm giving this a C-. Next up, we have the Great Hall of Starnheim. This is the Orzhov. White, white, black, tap and sack. Also, you have to sack a creature you control. So this one you have a double activation there. You're not just sacking the land, you do have to sacrifice a creature as well. Create a 4/4 Angel Warrior creature token with flying and vigilance. Only activate this ability anytime you could cast a sorcery. This one, to me, feels like it's going to be up there for one of the strongest in this cycle, honestly. A 4-mana 4/4 Flying Vigilant Angel is pretty close to everything this color combination wants to be doing. There's kind of an Angels sub-theme. A lot of play 2 spells a turn. It's kind of the main theme, but the 4/4 flyer if you have a tiny little token, there's a ton of elf tokens in green-black, so you're going to be getting some of that. For 4 mana, you can sack that and get a 4/4 angel with flying and vigilance. Yeah, I'm here for this one. This enables anything that you have angel synergies with, and it's just, like I said, a nice way to upgrade something in the late game that is just kind of sitting on the board doing nothing for you. Yeah, I'm here for this one. I give this like a B-, maybe C+ for the Great Hall of Starnheim. Next up is Immersturm Skullcarn. This is Rakdos. Taps for a black. You can pay 1 black, red, red. Something I failed to mention earlier is that the color that these tap for is always the lesser of the 2 colors in the activation. So every card is 1/1/2. So this one is black, red, red. So there's less black in the ability, but it taps for a black, if that makes sense. So this one you pay 1 black, red, red, tap, sacrifice it. It deals 3 damage to target player. That player discards a card. Activate this ability only anytime you could cast a sorcery. It feels like it's being pulled in 2 directions to me a little bit. The 3 damage to a player feels like you want to be closing out the game this turn, which makes it feel, which makes the discard kind of feel negligible. If you're doing this to deal the last 3 points of damage, then you don't really want the discard. That doesn't really do much for you. I think it'll fit nicely in an aggro Rakdos list that needs a little bit more oomph closing out the game. Like I said, I think this is just it's kind of like that last 3 points of damage. You're really going to be paying 5 mana for it. It feels like you hopefully are going to have some big critters on the board, swing at those, get them down to 3, activate this, and close the game out. The discard kind of feels stapled on there. I get why it's there. It's some added value if you're not closing the game out, but it just doesn't. If you're not closing the game out, this one doesn't quite feel worth it to me. So this one for me is like a C-, D+ range card. Next up, we have Simic. This is Litjara Mirror Lake. It taps for blue. You can pay 2 green, green, blue, tap and sack it. Create a token that's a copy of target creature you control, except it enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. And again, activate only anytime you could cast a sorcery. So copying your biggest creature on board for 6 mana is great utility on a land. It's a bit pricey compared to what the creature you're copying most likely cost to cast. So the odds are you're not going to be copying something that costs 7 or higher mana. Hopefully you can get something big, something that has a huge impact on the game, and then being able to double up on that will kind of negate the mana that you're going to have to pay and also sacrifice a land. And the functionality of being able to do this late game and get out of a board stall is going to be very real. Simic has a lot of shapeshifters, and being able to clone a shapeshifter is going to be really big. This feels like a much later game card than a lot of the rest of these. I'm giving this one a C-. I like it a little bit better than the Rakdos. Next up is Dimir with Port of Karfell. We've got 3, it taps for a blue, and then you can pay 3 blue, black, black, tap, and sacrifice Port of Karfell. Mill 4 cards, then return a creature from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So this one is expensive, but I don't know if it's the best in this cycle. It's probably not because of the cost, but it's definitely the one I'm most excited to play. 7 mana to reanimate a creature is a bit high, but milling 4 to enable that reanimation is great. Being able to say, you know what, I've got some good creatures in my graveyard. I'm going to be able to mill 4. Hopefully I can mill something even better and then just get it back onto the battlefield is really, really nice. You will need to build around this. You'll need big creatures that you want to get in your graveyard, and also, by that note, you'll need to be able to get them in your graveyard. You'll need some sort of discard or mill effects, but having a payoff for your deck on a land, yeah, I'm really in for that. Also, note that this one does not have to be at sorcery speed. If you're in a blue-black controlling type deck and you only have a couple of big creatures and you have a bunch of instant speed interaction, a bunch of kill spells, poison the cup, things like that, yeah, you're going to be able to hold this open, their end step, activate it, get your big fatty out, and then swing with it immediately. So I think the not sorcery speed part of this card is really what bumps the power level up. I think this one's probably in the B- range, maybe a C+ because of the casting cost. And again, I could just be speaking out of my butt here because I'm so excited to play it, but I am very excited to play it. Moving on, we have Skemfar Elderhall. This is Golgari. It taps for a green. You can pay 2 black, green, tap, and sacrifice it. Up to 1 target creature you don't control gets -2/-2 until end of turn. Create 2 1/1 green elf warrior creature tokens, and this one is only at sorcery speed. By the way, it looks to me like elf warrior, there was no space in there. In the text box, it looks so crammed in there. It almost looks like they forgot to put a space in there. But onto the actual card. 6 mana to kill a thing and make 2 1/1 elves is decent. Golgari has a lot of elf synergy, and this is going to be activating those things. This is going to be enabling those things even more. Being able to kill a medium-sized creature, a lot of this set is like 1 and 2 toughness. If you can swing in with a bunch of elves and they have something with 3 toughness, get it down to 2, get a point of damage on it, yeah, this is going to be taking out a lot of creatures. And then getting the 2 1/1 elves is some solid upside. If you're in an elf synergy or an elf tribal deck, this goes up a little bit higher. More than likely, you'll be in elf synergies other than just green-black stuff. So I think this one's a solid C, maybe a C-. But I think it's good because so much of the set will die to that -2/-2. I think this is being undervalued a little bit. I think this has some serious value to it. Next up and lastly of this set, I do believe, is the Izzet. This is Sirtland Frostpyre. Taps for a red, and this is 2 blue, red, tap, sacrifice it, scry 2. Sirtland Frostpyre deals 2 damage to each creature. Activate this anytime you could activate a sorcery. Yeah. So I like the Izzet color combination. I do not like this one. Getting land or getting value out of your land slots is always good, but this makes me not want to say that. 6 mana to scry 2 and deal 2 to everything at sorcery speed would be you would never play that card. Throwing it on a tapped land that only provides 1 color really doesn't add a ton. It's not nothing, but it just doesn't add a ton to it. The only time this card would really seem worth it would be late in a top decking war, but even then 2 damage to everything. Like I said, a lot of stuff is going to die to 2 points of damage or -2 to their toughness. But by the time you get to the point in the game where you're top decking and you want to be activating this, there's going to be creatures with higher than 2 toughness. And it just doesn't feel like it's going to open up the board for attacks. And while it can help you dig for a card to get out of that, it doesn't really get that card into your hand. So you're going to be taking a turn off to maybe open up the board a little bit, but probably not enough for you to swing in. Maybe you'll get a card, but you'll have to wait until next turn. Yeah, I'm giving this one a D-, and that's really only because it's a land. It's still the the effect that it has on the game feels pretty borderline F to me. I don't think that this one is anything to write home about. And now we are going to be getting into so that's the end of that cycle. That's it. We've made it. Now we're getting into just, it's not really a cycle anymore. We're just getting into the rest of the lands. So first up, we have Faceless Haven. This taps for a colorless, and you can pay snow, 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 and Faceless Haven becomes a 4/3 creature with vigilance and all creature types until end of turn. It's still a snow. Or excuse me, it's still a land. And if you're not familiar, snow mana can be anything produced by a snow source. So any of the snow duels, any of the snow basics, and there is an artifact as well that's a replicating ring, I think it's called. Taps for a mana, and it's a snow artifact. So that would be the ways to do it. An untapped snow source is a fantastic baseline. Being able to turn into a 4/3 shapeshifter is even better. And notably, its activation is not a tap ability. So you can use this to activate itself. You can tap this for a mana and then 2 other snow lands and activate it. Not sure that that's ever going to be useful, but anything with a tribe synergy, maybe you'll want this if you're, I don't know, if you're 1 elf away from something, if you're 1 giant away from something. It will be tapped, but it will also be there. So if you need that, if something grows with the number of insert tribe here that you have, something like that, this can do that. This feels like a solid B to me. I'm in for this one. You're not going to be super thrilled to first pick this, but I also wouldn't be mad at it. I like the value of this one a lot. Next up, we have Shimmer Drift Veil. This is a snow land that ETB's tapped, and as Shimmer Drift Veil enters the battlefield, you choose a color, tap, add 1 mana of the chosen color. So this one is pretty similar to the snow basics. It comes in tapped, but you get to pick the color that it produces. It could help with splashing, but I would try to avoid it unless you're desperate for fixing or need to maximize your snow permanence. So if you're full-on Sultai, this would be nice, but if you're just Simic, then this would still be good, and it's definitely going to be something that you want, but I don't think I would value it super highly. It feels kind of like a snow Evolving Wilds, if that makes sense. So if you are splashing, this is a little bit more, a little bit higher upside than an Evolving Wilds, and the snow is great as well. I think this is a C-. Next up is Right Sanctum. Taps for a colorless. You can pay 2 and tap. Target legendary creature becomes a god in addition to its other types. Put a 1/1 counter on it. You can pay 4 and tap to sacrifice Right Sanctum and put an indestructible counter on target god. This is a rare, and I think this is going to be a rare draft only type card. This feels way too cute for limited to me. I think if you're building God Tribal and Constructed, that's what this is for. This set has a lot of legendary creatures, but spending 8 mana plus the casting cost of the creature across 2 turns to make your creature slightly bigger and indestructible is just not doing it. It's not snow. It only taps for colorless. This card to me is an F. It's not something that you're going to be wanting to play. This is something that you'll take on the wheel of a weak pack just to get the gems in arena. It's just not, you're not playing it. This is an F. On to the last card. This is the last land in the set, and this is one that is got a lot of people worried for constructed formats. Luckily for us, that doesn't quite matter. This is the World Tree. The World Tree ETB's tapped, and you can tap to add a green. As long as you control 6 or more lands you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. So, if you're trying to splash, you'll want this. Oh, and by the way, you can tap, we'll call it Wooburg. It's white, white, blue, blue, black, black, red, red, green, green. Tap, sacrifice the World Tree. Search your library for any number of God cards, put them onto the battlefield, and then shuffle your library. So this would be great if you are playing that constructed God Tribal deck that Right Sanctum is going into. This is absolutely going to go into that. As far as limited, not so much. a lot of the same things apply. This card is busted in 60 card formats. Notably, it is not legendary. For limited, it won't do much without being able to stack your deck full of gods, which is just maybe somebody out there in all of the drafts is going to be able to make this work. It's not going to be me, excuse me, because I'm never going to try it. I could see myself trying to use this in some sort of 5-color nonsense deck with all the dual lands, with all the fixing that's out there in the set. I could see maybe like a 5-color snow deck being a thing, and this would be a part of that. But otherwise, you're never playing this. I think this card's an F. I'll give it a D- because like a 5-color snow deck would be fun. But this card is just not good. It's not what you're wanting. You're not going to be playing this card very highly, if honestly at all. So that's it. Those are the lands of Kaldheim. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching and listening to this first episode of the 40 card pile. Let me know your thoughts. What am I too high on? What am I too low on? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Thanks for listening.